Um, PvP. It's so far so good. There are still some classes which have bugs, like the Stalker, like the Void Slip of the Spellsinger, where you just go into Void Slip, run across the the root field of an Esper, which you can't see, but you're still getting rooted. Makes things not as fun. So to start off, I want to issue two things. Or to compensate two things. One is interrupt armor, because it can make or break the game, in my opinion. And second is the impact of CC in the game, which kind of corresponds to interrupt armor, but I think that there needs to be some tweaks. So first of all, interrupt armor. Currently, interrupt armor is getting buffed by everyone. Like, we have medics, we have engineers, I can buff them as Esper, I have them as a Spellsinger, Stalker has them. Every class has access to interrupt armor. The things, though, with interrupt armor is that people who can actually buff it group-wide, like a medic, their interrupt armor just applies for a long duration. So we have about 25, like, it feels like 20 to 25 seconds. I don't know the exact value, I didn't look it up, I'm sorry. But it feels very long. So what you often see is people running around with 2 or 3 interrupt armor at any given moment, which means that I at least need 3 to 4 stuns or interrupt armor breaks if you skill them to actually get a CC on them. Well, this doesn't make it fun, because you will just ignore this person because it's just not worth it, since you are wasting a lot of cooldowns. One could say now, exactly, but that's the way that interrupt armor works. You want to be immune to CC. Yes, you want to be immune to CC, but you don't want to be not touched anymore, because you are one class that just can buff a lot of interrupt armor. We don't want that to be happening, because in the end everyone will just run around with 5 interrupt armor on their team, and all it's gonna be is a DPS race, because no one's ever gonna stun anymore. So what I would propose, which I talked about a lot of people with, like Never Die, Mega, Halper, aka YOLO Naruto Swag, and people like that, who actually played closed beta since December at least, and to are at 50, and I think that interrupt armor should be something active and not passive, as this is right now. So I buff interrupt armor, I press a button, I have interrupt armor, and I'm good with that. So I do that, like, at the start of the game, and during my first engage, I can still have that interrupt armor, which is kind of sad. What I would rather see is something very active, to make a conscious decision. I don't want to be CC'd now. What that means is, for example, I as a Spellsinger, I have skills like Charge Shot and Assassinates. And especially during Charge Shot, because it has a charge time, I don't want to be interrupted. Right now, I just cast it because 99% of the time I still do have some interrupt armor on me, so I don't give a damn. But what if I would actually need to use my skill to be not stunnable during that time? And that is like a second of 3 to 4, like 3 to 4 seconds of a duration that I'm actually not stunnable. So what I would like to see is, don't make it a passive thing, but decrease the amount of time it sticks on a character. It should be something that is a very small amount of time. Like, for the next 3 seconds, I have 1 interrupt armor on me. Or maybe 2 if we have a group effort of putting interrupt armor on us. That can be either to defend ourselves because the enemy is currently engaging. That could be to engage the enemy, to not be stunned, to actually be able to put out our damage rotation. But that could also mean, hey, I just threw in a stealth detection pod and I see the stalker coming, and I can actively react to that and negate his stun by putting an interrupt armor on at the right moment. Right now, that is not the case by far. I just have it on me, and Stalkers, for example, get screwed a lot due to that. They can't skill their stun to tier 4 like we Spellsingers can do to remove one interrupt armor and still get a stun. They can't do that. So what they are doing is they're bursting without stunning because the stun is not worth it because they can't stun us anyway. And a couple seconds later, I still have my interrupt armor, or I just buffed it again. Made due to pots, gadgets, skills, whatever. There's a lot of interrupt armor around. If we make that active, first of all, what it does, it makes things more reactive, so I have to react to stuns. It makes classes more viable who don't have too much stun breakers, or too many stun breakers, stuns. It makes stun breakers a lot more important in certain situations, because if you actually get stunned a lot more, these are a lot more valuable. And fourth, it would increase the current skill cap of the game, because, to be honest, it's not that high. And I do think with that change, we would push the game into a direction where new players, they would first of all be like a little confused, sure, but they get introduced during leveling to interrupt armor, and if they see something very reactive, they will see it's super skill-based, and it involves more decision-making overall, plus more teamwork, especially in arenas, since I can just shout at my medic, give me an interrupt armor, so that I can give my burst, or apply my burst, or negate a burst of the enemy because I'm not getting stunned. So that's the first topic that I want to talk about, wanted to talk about, is interrupt armor. That it's too passive right now, it's way too strong because there's way too many ways to get interrupt armor. So remove the buff, or reduce the buff time to like 3 to 4 seconds at max, and maybe even increase the cooldown so it's something that really hurts if you miss it. Okay, that's for the first part. Now I gotta think what I wanted to add to the second part, and that is CC in general, or the way CC behaves. Right now, as a spell singer, I have a skill which is called Arcane Shot. Well, Arcane Shot doesn't do anything in PvP. I can apply that. I'm ripping off one interrupt armor, sure. But the interrupt doesn't have any effect. Like seriously, it doesn't do shit. Best example, I'm charging Charge Shot. It's the most broken skill at the moment for the spell singer. I can crit up to 14k with it, and I charge it. And the warrior sees it, and he doesn't want to get hit by that because it hurts. So what he does, he interrupts me by pulling me to him, or knocking me down, or anything like that. Thing is, I'm getting out of there, Void Stimp or whatever, and my skill is not on cooldown. I just charge up again, and shoot it straight in his face 2 seconds after that. And that is something that is really, really bad. If I am interrupting, so I'm preemptively shooting my Arcane Shock onto an S-Burst so the next skill gets interrupted, and he uses his Mind Burst, a 5 side point Mind Burst. He should not just be interrupted and not be able to cast the skill, because it's an instant kill with no cooldown, it just relies on side points. So he's not using it, side point's still there, and he just shoots it again, and the skill is completely useless. So what I would love to see is that interrupt actually, any form of stun actually put the skill that you are currently casting on a cooldown. For example, someone's interrupting my auto attack, which would be real good against spell singers because trigger fingers wouldn't proc anymore, so we had longer cooldowns. And I would get like a 3 seconds cooldown onto my auto attack because I just got interrupted casting it. Or for example, for Charge Shot, for skills that actually have a cooldown, I was charging it, so I was actively using the skill, I got interrupted, give me the goddamn cooldown, or the person just wasted his CC to interrupt me there. And that goes from A to B during every class. I am interrupting the quantum cascade of a medic during his energize because he will wreck me with it. Oh, never mind, he just presses the button again because he still has his accumulators because nothing was taken from him, even with a CC on him. May it be a pull to interrupt him, may it be an actual interrupt, may it be a knockdown, may it be a stun. He comes out of stun and can, as soon as he's out of there, he can press his button again and deal damage. And that feels wrong to me. I don't want to say it's bad, but I want to say if we had that, people would be a lot more aware of, one, interrupt armor, because you don't want your high burst skill to be interrupted anymore. And two, to the effectiveness of classes and support classes. I could see myself playing someone who buffs my team with shields, gives them more movement speed and assault power, has a lot of stuns and interrupts for the enemy team, and maybe apply some interrupt armor on my team. That's something I could see myself in a role, and if I can make a huge impact in the game with that, we could see a whole new diversity of builds in any aspect of PvP. Like, wait, they have a spellsinger who is really good at bursting? Let me just sit on him with all my interrupts, and let's see how much damage he actually deals. He's under a lot of pressure because he's getting interrupted. My team can still focus on someone else because they don't have to worry about it. And I am there to support them while taking one of their main damage dealers out of the game, if played correctly. And that is something that would, once again, increase the versatility, increase the skill cap because you would need to think about interrupt armor, and you want to use interrupt armor for certain skills because they can get pushed on cooldown. And third, it wouldn't make warriors and stalkers feel useless in some scenarios because people just have too much stuff going on because they can cast it over and over and over and over again because there is no penalty of them messing up and getting stunned during a charge, for example. So I would like to see these things change. Interrupt armor cooldown, duration decrease, maybe a cooldown increase, and interrupting skills putting them on some sort of cooldown, either their normal cooldown or maybe a general cooldown of 3 to 5 seconds that people actually get hurt by skills like Arcane Shock, Pulse, or something like that. And that was a big monologue and it took me way too long because I was off my mind, but I hope you guys understood. And now back to my banana because I'm hungry.